What is love? Not a domain in Unearthed Arcana anymore. If you want to see what the comparison of the previous, much backlashed, much controversied Unearthed Arcana Subclasses Part 2 is compared to what the official published version is that came out today, stay tuned. Alright, so before we get started, welcome. I'm Ted. This is Nerd Immersion. And I wanted to just share a little bit of channel analytics with you real quick. And that is right here, watch time from subscribers in the past 28 days. We've gotten this number down almost a full 3%. We're down to 70.4% of you who are watching my videos or have watched in the past 28 days are not subscribed to the channel. So if you do enjoy what I do here and like what's going on, I would really appreciate that little click of the subscription button. Trust me, it really does go a long way. That being said, let's dive into what you're actually here for. Comparing Unearthed Arcana, we have original subclasses on the left side and currently released subclasses on the right side. Same name, looks like pretty much everything is the same for some of the things, and actually all of the issues that I complained about in the original have been fixed, so that's good. So we still have our Note of Possibility. We still have our Inspiration die. It comes as part of it. You get the tiny note. I think these are all pretty much verbatim here, right? Inspiration die to add it to an attack roll. Creature within 5 feet, Constitution saving throw, take thunder damage, equal to the Bardic Inspiration die. Note of Protection. You get temporary hit points equal to your Inspiration die plus your Charisma modifier, provided you don't have temporary hit points. And then Ingenuity is roll the Bardic Inspiration die and choose it the second must use. So originally it was must use the second roll. Now it's choose which roll to use. Okay. So now we used to have Performance of Creation was a 6th level ability. Now it is the 14th level ability, and Animating Performance is the 6th level ability. So let's take a look. Originally, our Animating Performance was you went and did this whole thing. You got your dancing item at level 14, and that was sort of your end ability. Now you get that significantly earlier at level 6. It is still an action to activate it, right? When you create a non-magical... Oh, sorry, it was originally you created the non-magical item and you could make it dance. Now it's as an action you target a larger or smaller non-magical item you can see within 30 feet of you to animate it. The animated item uses the dancing item stat block, was under your control for 1 hour until it's reduced to 0 hit points. Previously, it was under your control until the item vanishes or it's reduced to 0 hit points. So now it has a time limit, which it did not have before. In combat, originally, it would move and use its reaction on its own, take its turn to take the dodge action, unless you used a bonus action to command it to do something in its stat block. It can still do that, bonus at move, its reaction, take the dodge action unless you use a bonus action to dash, disengage, help, hide, or search, or take an action in its stat block. When you use the Bardic Inspiration feature, you can command which action your animated item takes as part of the same bonus action that remains. Once you animate it, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest or until you expend a spell slot of 3rd level or higher. You have only one animated object at a time. If you use this action and already have one, the first one immediately becomes inanimate. I think I'm reading this correctly. Originally, it was just per once per long rest, or no? You could use this originally as long as you had one of the objects. Whenever you create a non-magical item, you can choose to instill life into it. So you didn't have to be using... Okay, so it was once per long rest, or if you burn a 3rd level slot. Originally, Performance of Creation, okay, was still a 3rd level slot, so that's the same. But the stats of the dancing item itself have changed. Still 16 AC. Its hit points was equal to your level times 5 originally. Now it equals its Constitution modifier plus your Charisma modifier plus 5 times your level in the class. So more hit points overall. It does not have Strength and Constitution saving throws anymore. Its statistics remain the same. Same condition and damage immunities. Still has Dark Vision. Still has Endless Waltz. After it makes a slam attack, you can take the dodge action. Still has Immutable Form. But its force-powered slam was your spell attack modifier and did 2d8 plus your charisma modifier and force damage. It is now 1d10 plus your charisma modifier and force damage. Now, performance of creation, significantly later. Still in action to do so, create a non-magic object within 10 feet. The item must appear on a surface or liquid it can support. Now it is an item 20 times your bard level. It must be large or smaller. It was previously larger than, could be no larger than a 10-foot cube. Now it's large or smaller. Tiny glimmering intangible notes float around it, and a creature can faintly hear music when touching it. I don't think it had that before. See the armors, weapons, adventuring gears, tools, mounts, vehicles, tables. So it even will technically create, you could create a horse, right? Yeah, your bard level times 20. It becomes it doesn't say it has to be, it just says it has to be non-magical. One non-magical item. It specifically states mounts here, so I don't know if that means it could be a boat or it could be a horse. Created item disappears at the end of your next turn unless you use your action to maintain it. Each time you use an action in this way, it extends the reign to a maximum of 1 minute. If you maintain for the full minute, it exists for a number of hours equal to your bard level. That remains the same. But now this one has its own thing. It's tied. You must expend a spell slot of 5th level or higher to get this feature back. You can only have one item created by this feature at a time. If you use this action and you already have one, the original one vanishes. I did ask one of the folks who helped develop this, what about the idea of the rations? If you eat them, do they disappear? And the answer is apparently it's just up to your DM. It says create an item. I don't know if you could technically argue that a mount is an item, but they say mounts and vehicles, so who knows? All right, I'm not going to touch on any of the controversy and what was all around the idea of the original love domain. We now have the unity domain, okay? So it's going to basically have some of the same features, but a significant amount have changed. We have our list of different gods here, and we have our domain spells, which were Charm Person, Heroism, Enthrall, Warding Bond, Beacon of Hope, Hypnotic Pattern, Aura of Purity, Confusion, Greater Restoration, and Hold Monster are now Heroism, Shield of Faith, Aid, Warding Bond, Beacon of Hope, Sending, Aura of Purity, Guardian of Faith, Greater Restoration, and Rary's Telepathic Bond. The Emboldening Bond feature that was originally part of the Love Domain looks to be relatively unchanged as far as I can tell. D4 on an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw lasts for an hour. You can do so if expending a spell slot to get it again. All right, Impulsive Infatuation is gone and replaced with Shared Burden. When a creature you can see within 30 feet of you takes damage, you can use your reaction to choose a number of willing creatures you can see, up to a number of creatures equal to your Wisdom modifier. Distribute the damage taken between the original target and the chosen creatures. Each creature must take at least 1 damage, applying any damage resistance or vulnerability of the creatures involved after you distribute the damage. So you can still, this can be reduced, which is kind of nice because there have been features where you could spread damage around, but this actually lets you legitimately spread it out, and then resistances apply to cut it down even further. Protective Bond, I believe, is exactly the same. If the creature uses it, when a creature is within 30 feet of one another, they can use their reaction to gain resistance to all damage to the other creature. When that creature takes damage, it lasts until the end of the current turn. And then Potent Spellcasting is the same. They added a little note to say you either get Potent Spellcasting or Divine Strike. If a Cleric of a Domain typically relies on a weapon, it gets Divine Strike, which is my issue with the Trickster Domain Cleric. See my other video. And then Enduring Unity, I believe, is pretty much the same. It works with their same plane of existence. Additionally, when a creature chosen for your Emboldening Bond is reduced to 0 hit points, their bonded partner gains the following benefit for 1 minute as long as they have 1 hit point. Advantage on all attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws. Resistance to all damage, and as an action, can touch their bonded partner and expend any rolled number of hit dice. The bonded creature gains hit points equal to the total rolled. So, Love Domain is gone. Whatever your thoughts were on it, I think the Unity domain is better. The spells are way better, and you're going to get access to some unique ones that you wouldn't normally get, like Rary's Telepathic Bond, which is a ritual spell, and having a ritual spell always prepared is huge. The Shared Burden feature has a lot more utility in combat because you can divide it up against the whole party, and then everything else pretty much remains the same, and those were all good. And, folks, I'm so excited. Our Clockwork Soul Warlock got all of the fixes that we wanted. First of all, we gave ourselves Clockwork Magic, which means Clockwork Spells. So we get kind of domain spells, if you will, something that I really sincerely hope they go back and do for all of the previous sorcerers. But we get the following spells always prepared. Each spell counts as a sorcerer spell for you, doesn't count against the sorcerer's spells known, and can't be replaced when you level up. Alarm, protection from evil and good, find traps, heat metal, counterspell, glyph of warding, arcane eye, Odaluk's resilient sphere, animate objects, and wall of force. Those are all solid spells. Some a little niche uses like find traps. And I don't know if you can actually get Odaluk's resilient sphere typically as a sorcerer, so that goes a long way. This entire restore balance feature that we complained about how stupidly worded it was, sounds like they pretty much took what my suggestion and your suggestion was, rather than saying it grants you advantage and disadvantage, and then here's how those rules work. When a creature you can see within 60 feet of you is about to roll a d20 with advantage or disadvantage, you can use your reaction to prevent that roll from being affected by advantage or disadvantage. Charisma modifier times for long rest. So it's just cleaner, worded all around. Bulwark of Law remains mostly the same. You can expend the 1 to 5 sorcery points to give the ward to you or creature within 30 feet. However, it was d6s. It has now been replaced with d8s. So this ward is now represented by a number of d8s, 1d8 to 5d8. When a warded creature takes damage, it can use its reaction to expend a number of those d8s, roll them, and reduce the damage by the total spent. Trance of Order, I think, is the same, although I believe it got a little bit of a bonus. Okay, it is now a bonus action to use, as opposed to an action. For the next minute, attack rolls against you can't benefit from advantage, which is the same whenever you make an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. Treat a roll of a d20 of 9 or lower as 10. That's the same. It is still 5 sorcery points to get it back. Once per long rest for free. And oh my god, is this so much better. Clockwork Cavalcade was an action, a 30-foot cube originating from you. The spirits are intangible, and they do a thing, and then they vanish. Before, it was any creature that has 0 hit points becomes stable. Now, you restore a total of 100 hit points divided up amongst as many creatures as you want within that cube. That's way better. Any damaged objects entirely in the cube are repaired. That's the same. And previously, it was every spell of 5th level or lower ends on creatures and objects in the cube. Now it's every spell of 6th level or lower ends on creatures and objects of your choice in the cube. So you don't have to lose your allies' significantly high-level buffing spells when you use your feature. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest or until you spend 7 sorcery points to use it again. You are 18th level. I did think it was weird that the 18th level ability previously kind of sucked, and it was 5 sorcery points, and the 14th level ability was super good and was 5 sorcery points. So now they made Clockwork Cavalcade better. I also have a theory, and I want to run this by you guys. Is that ability that much better, like mechanically, to be on par with an 18th level ability? Or is it just not what it was, so we're automatically excited to jump on the idea of, oh my god, it does these things? So healing 100 hit points is nice. And distributing it however you want as an action. Granted, the heal spell heals 70 hit points, and that's a 6th level spell slot, so you'd have that at 11th level. So if you want to keep that in perspective, granted, it doesn't go to it's up to one person, but you're a sorcerer, you could twin spell it. So there's options there. But this is nice. It's definitely a huge boon over what it was. The fact that you can end 6th level spells, which I believe means Feeble Mind is included in there. I think Feeble Mind is a 6th level spell. Might be 7th. But now it's only on creatures and objects now. It was objects already, creatures and objects, but now it's of your choice. So you can choose to not end your allies' bless or your allies' invisibility or something like that. So all in all, I will say I think the switch of the creation bard to get the animating thing earlier is, well, it's better because, again, most games are going to play in a lower level spectrum, so that's big. You're going to get access to this really cool feature earlier on. I appreciate that. I think the Unity domain is just better overall. Controversy aside, I think the spells that it gets and the new Channel Divinity is above and beyond everything the Love domain was. So that, I think, is really good, and it has a lot of potential. I also think that the way they've been releasing these subclasses, if you were to get a group together and just play the groups or the classes released in these things, you'd have a very powerful team. The ability to distribute out the damage like this, which you could potentially distribute it to a willing creature, which could be the dancing object of the bard, and then you could use the Clockwork Cavalcade to reset all the hit points to give everybody more HP. there's a lot of cool combinations you could do now with taking all of the newly released Unearthed Arcana and swapping and like making a party of those characters. You could make a very interesting, unique, and powerful party. And I think the Clockwork Sorcerer is way better than it was. And it once again instills what I'm hoping. We're going to get these kind of ideas of clockwork spells or dragon spells or psionic spells, where sorcerers going forward are now going to get a new spell, 2 spells automatically prepared that are not typically on their spell list of first, 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 9th. So 1st through 5th level spells similar to a druid, similar to a cleric or a paladin, making them significantly better than sorcerers are. Again, I've done videos on that in the past. Their limited spell choice kind of hampers them a lot, but it only works, and I hope you're listening to me, Wizards, it only works if you do this, release this in a book that becomes printed, and then you go back. I know you hate doing this, as we've seen with the Ranger, and then you go back and you put out a list for all of the previous ones that you've already released. You've already released 4 or 5 different sorcerers out there. If you start giving new sorcerers these kind of domain, clockwork origin type spells that they have, and you don't give them to the wild magic and, you know, the dragon and the shadow, if you don't go back and do that, that's stupid. That's like, just do us all a favor and do that. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video covering the difference between the super controversial, long-lost Unearthed Arcana. I'm glad they made the updates. I don't know how many of these updates and things were made in there because of the backlash and feedback that was released. Part of me, a very cynical part of me, was like, was it a test? Let's release it early, unfinished, see what the feedback is, and then pull it down, upload it, take in everybody's feedback, and make it seem like it was just released early, but really it was just us playtesting it by the concept of saying what was wrong with it. Maybe I'm wrong in that too, but something I want you guys to think about. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys at the next one.